Alright guys, so another video for today. I'm going to go over the tax comparisons between employees, S corporations, and a sole proprietor, okay? And I'm going to try to go through this in a simple, brief, kind of simple way for you guys to understand. Yes, it's going to be a lot more complicated. I'm going to make a separate in-depth video on S corp elections, how they work, and why they are a great tax entity classification that you should choose if you're making over a certain amount of money. So let's say, okay, we're gonna have first, I'm gonna compare how an employee versus sole proprietor, how they're different with tax. So let's say we have you, right? You as an employee, your salary is 100K, right? And you as a sole proprietor, your net is 100K. You know, let's say you grossed 140 or 160 and you had expenses of 160. So now you're at 100K, right? So you're both at 100K. What kind of taxes do you guys have to pay between those two? Okay, so I have it here. So both of you guys are gonna have to pay Social Security and Medicare tax, right? But if you're an employee, you only pay half of that. And what I mean by that is this: Social Security and Medicare is 15.3%. When you're working for someone, your employer takes over half of 15.3. So he pays for 7.65 of Medicare and Social Security. He pays 7.65 of Medicare and Social Security. You pay the other 7.65 of Medicare and Social Security. If you want to know how much Social Security of that 7.65 is and how much it's Medicare, 6.2% is for Social Security and 1.45 is for Medicare. As an employee, you pay for half of that, and as your employer pays the other half. Both of you collect those fees, send them to the IRS. IRS takes that, it equals 15.3, right? But you don't pay the other, again, you don't pay the other 7.65. You only pay, 7.65 of that 15.3%. So, yeah, let's just talk in terms of that. In that case, your total tax would be what, 7.65, so it's like 7,650 of Social Security and Medicare, right? Cool. Let's say you have an effective tax rate, which I'm gonna go over what an effective tax rate is, but your effective tax rate is 13.53% of the 100K, which is 13,580, and your state income tax is going to be 5%, so that's 5K. So your total tax, if you are an employer, that would be around 26,230, and you can double check me on this. Again, the 13.580 and the 5,000 plus the 6.2 and 1.45, which is the 7.65. Stay with me. Boom. That's totaling 26. But if you're on your own, the only difference, if you're a sole proprietor, the only difference between this is you have to cover the employer's portion of the 15.3. So now you have to pay your portion, which is the 7.65, which we talked about, plus the employer's portion. You have to pay for it. Did not mean to flip you off there. You have to fork out the other 7.65. So now that's totaling 15.3 plus the federal income and your state income, right? So now it's totaling around 33,880. Why? Because of the 7.65, right? It's just an extra 7.65, $7,650 that you have to fork out because you don't have an employer, right? And the IRS still wants 15.3, remember. It sucks, I know. You're a coach, you're a consultant. You're gonna have to fork this out because from that money, your employer's not covering you, right? You're on your own. You have to fork that out. Sucks, right? Okay. But there is a solution and there is hope. If you elect to be taxed as an S Corp, it's called a small corporation, then it's a little bit different. Now I'm gonna briefly explain this. Try to stick along. I'm gonna make a better video later. But essentially what's gonna happen when you elect to be taxed as an S Corp is that you're gonna split the you're just gonna split the whole thing. For example, so that you understand me, you're gonna split it in a way that it's your company and you. So now it's, say your name's Dylan and you're watching this, you're a culture consultant. Dylan's S Corporation and Dylan. All right. And what's gonna happen is that you are now gonna be an employee of your own company. So Dylan's company is employing Dylan, right? Speaking at it in the third person. And in this, Dylan's company had 100K, right? But they gave Dylan a salary, right, of 40K, okay? And the rest of it stays with the company, right? So now, here we are. Dylan has 40K, Dylan's S Corp has 60K. So the Social Security and Medicare stays the same for both, right? So now it's going to be 6.2% is going to be taxed on S Corp, on Dylan's S Corp, and 6.2 is going to be taxed on Dylan, and also Medicare. So 1.45 of 40K for Dylan and 1.45% on Dylan's S Corp, right? So yeah. Now the difference is though that income, federal income and state income, right? Your federal income and state income has to be taxed. Okay. Dylan has to pay federal and state income, which is, his federal income tax was 13.58% and 5% state income. But Dylan's S Corp does not. So that's the main catch right there. When you get taxed as an S Corp, your S Corporation does not pay federal income tax or state income tax. Yes, I made that a little bit more complicated than it needed to be, but bear with me. So that being said, yeah, Dylan had to pay $13,580 and $13,580 and $5,000 for his state and federal, but Dylan's S Corporation did not, right? So he only had to pay, so in total it would be $24,700, right? Now Dylan as a sole proprietor had to pay $33,880, and then Dylan as an employee had to pay $26,230. I'm gonna make another video on it explaining it. Just I need a whiteboard, honestly, and I'm just gonna write it down for you guys. But essentially, guys, if you're making, just remember this: if you're making more than 60K, 50K, I recommend switching to an S corporation, because as you do that, then you save a lot more on taxes. As you can see, you pay the most if you're a sole proprietor and you don't have S corp election. Unfortunately, you have to fork out the 7.65 that your employer used to cover. But yeah, so that's a 10-minute video for today. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll be answering them.